India is indeed the land of opportunity. More than 55,000 precious souls were added to the Lord's Church last year, making 1993 the most productive year to date for the churches of Christ.
We rejoice with the angels in heaven over the baptism of these souls.
Brother Jerris Bullard, who along with 3 other American missionaries has been preaching and teaching the Word in India since 1978, says the incredible number of Indian brethren being converted each year is no accident.
No, there's a tremendous amount of work that has led up to everyone who has become a member that I'm aware of. And it goes back to years, and we have built on the work, going all the way back to Brother J.C. Bailey's work, beginning in 1963. And now we have about 4,000 gospel preachers doing this work with us. So they're out, and their wives are out, and other faithful members are out, teaching their friends and their families and so forth. So a lot of hard work is going into their baptisms.
Bullard, who is sponsored by the Church of Christ in Manassas, Virginia, says one of the greatest joys of his life was his early association with Brother Bailey. Bullard feels he learned more about mission work on the field in India with J.C. Bailey than he could have ever learned in the classroom. Brother Bullard is reminded of his mentor's work every time he walks along the east coast of India with some of the native preachers he has trained to spread the good news of the gospel.
This is the east coast of the Indian Ocean, and along this coast we have many congregations. Americans have long worked in this area, and so Brother Daniel here has many congregations, both Hindu and Muslim congregations all along this whole coast, and his brother Isaac is also working in several of them. Jeremiah and Brother Yeshu, all of these men have worked all through this area for many years. And so when Brother Bailey came to this area, he came to the east side of India, to Madras. He worked from here up to Kakinada and even further along the coastline. But this was a very fruitful area for the preaching of the gospel.
Since Jerris Bullard made his first missionary journey to India, almost 400,000 Indians have been converted to Christ. The churches of Christ are growing by leaps and bounds in India. But Bullard says rapid growth can create problems.
There is a problem of growth, and it's a happy kind of problem. We'd rather deal with that than not growing, and it's difficult sometimes to get a work moving. And so I can remember those days when we'd go on a campaign and only on a 10 or 12-week campaign and only baptize 200 people. Now we go on a 10 or 12-week campaign and we baptize several thousands of people, 3,000 to 5,000, something like that. We want to make sure that the people that we have taught are well grounded, and that means that we don't want to run off and leave them once they're baptized, but we have to go back and do the follow-up, teaching with them, make sure they're grounded in the faith. And we want to have, wherever we establish a new congregation, we want to have an assigned minister to them. And unfortunately, some of our preachers are now having to serve as many as 7 to 10 congregations. And obviously, they just can't get around to all those congregations on a given Sunday or even during a given week. So we have to be careful not to overextend ourselves. And as a result of that, we have created an excellent school of preaching to train men. And we have over 200 campuses of our school of preaching now. And it's doing a good job of filling the pulpits throughout India, wherever we're establishing new churches. But that is a great pitfall that we work hard to guard against. We don't want to baptize so many that we can't see to them and tend to their spiritual needs.
Jerris Bullard and his colleagues make 2 missionary journeys to India each year. Together, they spend more than 500 days preaching and teaching in small villages like this one.
Now, I have some complaint about my preaching, brethren. It may come as a surprise to you. But most of my preaching brethren do not know how to read the Bible. And if you can't read the Bible, then what are you trying to do? What is your business?
One of the reasons the Church of Christ is growing so rapidly in India is the number of native preachers who are graduating from schools of preaching like this one. Without them, the India work would suffer considerably. One of the areas in which the work would suffer is travel. Wherever Jerris Bullard travels in India, whether it's by car, plane, or train, you will always see a young Indian preacher leading the way.
Man, I cannot believe this. All these years, this is the first time that I've ever had a train car right in the front.
All aboard!
Rabbit foot Simpson. I'm telling you. I can't believe this, brother.
Bullard has surrounded himself with a cadre of young preachers. In addition to being traveling companions, they also serve as interpreters. And over the years, these men have become Bullard's extended family.
I'm just moving here to let him by. Jeremiah? Is that the place?
So I will give clear certificate to you.
Are we in the right place?
Without men like Jeremiah, Jerris Bullard wouldn't go very far, very fast.
Perhaps the best thing that I could say about those men is the words that are to be found in Acts chapter 6 concerning the men who were first appointed as deacons. They were men who were full of the Holy Spirit, full of faith, and all of these men fit that category. And I don't know of anyone who loves the Lord more than these guys. They give up everything. They literally give up their time, their families to travel with us. And sometimes we feel a little guilty that we take so much of their time away from their families. But their families understand it's a part of their ministry also. And so everyone is sacrificing. People here are sacrificing time and money to send us. And the people in India are sacrificing their lives also to see that the gospel is shared abroad throughout their country. But these are wonderful men that you have mentioned. And I've traveled with them many, many miles, and throughout the years they've just become a part of my life.
Jerris Bullard is a road warrior. When he's not rushing to catch a train in India, he's running to catch a plane back home to raise funds for his next journey. At times, Bullard feels like a beggar.
I'm reminded of a little story about Brother J.C. Bailey, who was, of course, always asking people for help and never asking for himself, but always giving. But on one occasion, I heard Brother Bailey speaking, and he said, "I suppose at the time of my death, someone will say of me, and the beggar died." And I suppose that would be a good epitaph for myself.
Jess Willis, one of the missionaries Bullard works with, tells how you can get involved in this labor of love.
Well, anybody can be involved in this because it only takes a nickel to provide a correspondence lesson. It takes like $10 to teach one preacher in one of these seminars. And if a congregation can provide $500, well, then we can teach 50 preachers at one time in a seminar like this. And you can anticipate that at least half of them will turn to Christ.
While 55,000 baptisms a year may astound you, they're but a drop in the bucket when you consider that 71,000 babies are born every day in India. That's why the Great Commission spoken of in Matthew is just as relevant today as it was in the first century. In fact, the church is growing in India like it did back then. We hope that you will seriously consider making a contribution to the India Fund as we show you some of the people who are already benefiting from your generosity. The Lord's Day is a very special day in the lives of our Indian brethren. The preacher's mother at Pamati Pardu, where one of the largest churches of Christ is located, gets up long before sunrise to build a fire. The preacher's wife and her sisters also help with Sunday dinner by cutting up onions and vegetables that, along with rice, will become the main course for some 800 visitors. Villagers even killed a fatted cow in honor of Jerris Bullard's recent return to Pamity Pardue. While women chopped up a young water buffalo with an axe, children were busy sweeping out the church for Sunday services. Even though the church at Pamity Pardue is one of the largest churches of Christ in India, they're standing room only at services on Sunday morning.
We're just delighted to be with you, brethren. The brethren in America send their greetings. The Church of Christ at Manassas sends its greetings to you. We are always in prayer for you. We are never forgetting you. As I look out over this audience, I see many faces that I have known for many years. But I'm also mindful that there are some empty seats. Some of our loved ones have departed from this life. But brethren, we do not forget them. And we do not weep as those who have no hope. We look forward to joining them in heaven one day. So I thank you for gathering together.
One of those Jerris Bullard hopes to meet in heaven is a native preacher who was struck and killed by a truck as he bicycled home from evening services. After the morning worship, which lasts several hours, lunch is served. Unlike most of us who use silverware, our Indian brethren use their fingers. Plates or palm leaves stitched together. Although India is struggling to shake off its third world image, some things will never change. Indian women are still washing their clothes by hand in the nearest river or stream. With a population that will soon surpass China, labor is cheap. This family makes less than $1 a day in a mud pit at a brick factory. Jerris Bullard says bricks are still made the old-fashioned way.
The man has just come into the mud pit where he's mixing chaff with the mud, and these bricks are this mud is then taken to the people in the background where they form it into bricks. And you see they mix the chaff with the bricks, just as they did in Bible days when it talked about the Israelites had to gather their own straw. So things haven't changed a great deal here in India. As you see, these bricks are still being made by hand. And they'll take these bricks once they're formed, and then they will put more rice straw around them and chaff, and then they will set this on fire, and it will smolder for 2 or 3 days and harden the bricks then.
The bricks, though, are of such poor quality, wherever possible, we like to use concrete and reinforced steel in the church buildings we construct. So far, none of the buildings has been put to the ultimate test. An earthquake like the one that killed thousands of Indians as they slept during the night of September 29th, 1993. Jerris Bullard was in India when the earthquake struck. Ironically, it struck during the festival of Ganesh, the god of good fortune, happiness, and prosperity.
There was an interesting piece in the newspaper concerning one man who was walking about in a village that had been totally destroyed by the earthquake, and he was distraught and wanted to pray, and made mention of the fact that he wanted to pray for the people, but he said, "I'm not able to pray because the gods have been covered by the rubble. The temple in which the gods were kept had collapsed around the gods." And so this man was a religious man. He wanted to pray, but he didn't know how and could not pray to the living God. I hope that somehow we're able to reach him, to find this man, and to tell him about Jesus Christ and about the God who lives not in temples made by men's hands.
We hope that you've enjoyed this program, and thanks again to all of those who support the India work with their financial gifts and prayers. You can play an important part in this great work by sending your contributions to the Church of Christ India Fund, 8911 Weems Road, Manassas, Virginia, 22110. If you would like to go to India and work this coming year, please contact Brother Jerris Bullard at this address. On behalf of the elders at the Manassas Church of Christ who oversee the India Fund, we'd like to thank Dr. Larry Journey and his communications students at Oklahoma Christian University who have helped with post-production work on this program.